Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Necronautical, Slain in the Spirit, out August 20th on Spine Farm Candlelight Records. This album has 9 tracks, 55 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. They are a UK black metal band. Now, this record is very robust, it's very thick. There's a lot of layers, there's a lot to digest, it's a lot happening, but it still feels very together because there's a lot of similarities moving from song to song. It's an album that has a continuous approach to it, but it still feels very well intertwined from song to song. So there's really no pauses, there's no breaks. It's a record that doesn't allow you to jump off of it until you reach the end. The problem is, by the time you reach the end, which by the way is Disciple, a Slayer cover that works really well because it matches the soundscape of the record, but it also feels like a bonus track. So by the time you get to that song, you don't necessarily feel like playing the album again because there was just so much for you to go through, there was just so much for you to digest that you feel a little bit tired of the record. So you have to pause from it, walk away from it, reset your batteries, and then re-engage the album again. The way you can fix this is by keeping the same length but adding an interlude instrumental track in the middle of the record that adds to the atmosphere of the album, but it also gives the listener a sense of pause, break, and really gives you a better way of restarting the second half of the album, almost forgetting how the first half went, and really adding playability to the overall motion of the record. So that way, by the time you reach the end of the album, instead of feeling like the end, it just feels like another pause, and then you can go back to the beginning and start enjoying the record all over again. If you're going to go with this kind of compact aggression, if you're going to go with this sort of continuous motion, an album that really doesn't break, an album that's just moving and moving and moving, and it's always in your face, I think you have to shorten it up a little bit more, and you have to have it at around the 40-45 minute mark in order for the playability of the record not to be affected. Once you get into the soundscape, this album is very diverse. It is a black metal record, but it's not just your pure black metal album. There's a lot of death metal on this record. There's a lot of symphonic elements, a lot of death metal, symphonic death metal elements, and then there's a little bit of prog as well. So it's an album that has a very diverse soundscape, at least in how the songs are constructed and how they sound and how they come across, and you're going to see that in the sonic perspective that the record has, but also the atmosphere that's created by it. It's undeniable. This is really a record of layers. It's a record that gives you a sense of perception and a sense of depth with every single song. There's a lot of things coming at you, and having black metal as the spinal cord of the record, as the main tree branch with all the other genres coming in and influencing where that black metal is going to go, makes this album very exciting, very cool to listen to, and you really get lost within the songs themselves because they don't feel mundane. They really feel stretched, they feel bigger, they feel more elaborate, that they have more to offer, that they have more for you to dig. And it's one of those records that when you listen to it, specifically if you walk away from it a little bit, when you come back to it again, it almost feels like you listen to it for the first time. There's a lot of new elements that come across that perhaps you didn't notice the first time that you listened to it. Just really interesting album. I really like the sound. I really like the conglomerate of genres coming together to really define what this band wanted for this specific record. I think it works perfectly for them. It's a more dynamic, it's a more robust, it's an album that has a lot more to give because of it. It's not one-dimensional. Within that soundscape, I already touched on some of the items like the symphonic elements that this record has. I think it's an important element, not just for the sound, but for the atmosphere that's being created. It really depends on it, not on every single track, but on the majority of the tracks, it really depends on those symphonic elements, those keyboards, the choirs, all of that stuff that's coming with it in order to really make the songs feel a little bit bigger, have a little bit more life, and really enhancing the overall experience. Outside of the symphonic elements, you have to talk about the drums and the guitars for different reasons. I thought the drums were strong, but perhaps not strong enough, at least not in a consistent basis. I like the sound that they have, I like the presence that they have, but I felt that at times they required a little bit more of a punch, they required a little bit more thickness, they felt a little bit thin at times, and I wanted to see more consistent from that perspective because you start to feel the symphonic elements coming over top, overshadowing everything, but you need the drums to stay grounded to really control the motion of the record. And while it was there for the majority of the album, there were some songs where you start to feel the drums kind of fading away, and that to me could have been something that could have been addressed by adding a little bit more power, more aggression to the drum sound, not necessarily making them heavy, but just adding more volume to them. The guitars, on the other hand, I absolutely love them. flawless top to bottom. I love the melody, I love the darkness, I love the riffs, the leads, everything surrounding the guitars on this record. It's really outstanding. They become a little bit of the motor that guides your existence within the album. The moments in how you shift from one genre to the other. You're listening to a song that has a very black metal drive to its experience, to the way the song comes across, the way it's constructed. Suddenly there's this little bit of a twist in the road, this little bit of a side turn, and you get into an area that feels more like pure death metal in terms of how the guitars come across and how they're coexisting with the drums. All of this is happening because of the diversity of the guitar sound, the execution, and the overall approach. I just love the guitars on this record, top to bottom. There's not a single song that I wasn't blown away by how they executed, how they put it all together, and how they constructed with all the other pieces coming in, because this is an album, like I said, that has a lot of different layers. On the vocal perspective, I love the harsh vocals, super consistent from beginning all the way to the end. That black metal approach is definitely there on the vocals. There's a little bit of death metal as well, but you still feel the rawness of the black metal sound coming through, and having them consistent from beginning to end, it adds a little bit of a continuation from song to song. It gives the album that red line all the way through. It doesn't make the album break apart. Not that the album could, because this is a very compact record, but it's still, you need something that adds a sense of continuity, that it guides your experience, that gives you a sense of familiarity. The harsh vocals did that from beginning to end, but I also love the clean operatic female vocals that they added with the symphonic elements. Over the top, just magnificent, sporadic here and there within a song, jumping, not putting it on a track, then putting it on the next track. Just really exciting stuff, because it kept you on the edge of your seat. You never knew when it was coming, on where it was going to be used, but every time that it happened, it just caught you off guard. But it added so much life, it added so much energy to how these songs are put together and how you can process these tracks on an individual basis. Overall, I felt like this is more of a symphonic blackened death metal album. That's perhaps the best way to describe the overall experience of this record, because it's an album that really lives off of how symphonic it is, the death elements that come in and really start to spread throughout the whole record, and then it has the black metal spinal cord that kind of keeps it all together. So that's how I would define this record. So if you're coming in expecting a traditional, straightforward black metal album, and if you're coming in with those kind of expectations, this album may catch you off guard. You may be a little bit surprised by the soundscape that it has, and definitely by the atmosphere that it carries, and because of that, you may not like the record, because it doesn't go towards what your expectations were coming in. If you have zero expectations, if you never heard the band, or if you're a fan of the more symphonic side of death metal, black metal sound, then this record is definitely going to be a home run for you. Regardless of how chaotic or how chunky or clunky the overall structure of the album is, that takes nothing away from the quality of these 9 songs from top to bottom. And because of that quality, that's what's going to bring you back to this record. Not many people are going to listen to the record in order, in line anyways, so you have to have the quality of the individual tracks to surpass any little imperfections that the album may have, and that's exactly what they did with this record. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Slain in the Spirit, the title track. I absolutely love this song, my favorite song on the album. The main riff is killer, great tempo, the vocals pack the movement that the song has. It's a song that's both melodic and dark, but it still carries heaviness within both, either heaviness in the atmosphere or heaviness in the sound itself. It's weaving. It's a song that's constantly weaving between light and darkness. That's how you feel when you're progressing through this song. The guitar sound is incredible, punchy, it really kicks through. There's a melodic bridge in this song that's outstanding. It's mesmerizing. When you get to that bridge, that is the kind of bridge that you actually would need as an interlude in the middle of the record. This song has it in itself, and I really like it because it resets your senses, it resets your perception of the song, and then re-engages you for what's coming next. And then finishing the track with female opera style vocals just blew me away. This is a complete track, a track that really gives you a glimpse of everything that you're going to get within this album, both musically, vocally, and even from an atmospheric perspective. Next you have Pure Consciousness Event. more somber track, a track that has a little bit more of black metal, traditional black metal in it, from the way it starts, from the way it sounds, from the way it feels, from the atmosphere that it creates. A song that alternates in-your-face moments with pauses. It's a song that has stop and go. It has this, it's not continuous, it doesn't have this fluid motion to it. It has more pauses to it. So it allows itself to be a little bit different. And in those pauses, it allows to bring death metal into the picture, allowing the song to feel a little bit bigger, a little bit more heavier, but still with the black metal sprinkled in on top of it. So a track that merges black metal and death metal to perfection in terms of the way it's constructed and in the way it sounds. Last but not least, if you're gonna have a Slayer cover on your album, you know I'm gonna be talking about it, Disciple. I love this cover, closing track of the record, and like I said earlier, it works two ways. It works because it fits with the overall sound that the album has, so it doesn't feel like it's out of place, but at the same time it feels like that bonus track at the end, that extra honey in the pot. So I really enjoyed this song. I really enjoyed how they put it all together. It feels heavier, it sounds heavier with the black metal vocals coming through, giving this track a lot of darkness. A song that has this kind of lyrical content works perfectly for a band like this, for a band that has this more symphonic death metal sound with a lot of black and metal elements at play. So I love what they did with this Slayer cover. I love what they did with Disciple. Perfect way to close off this incredible record. This is it. Necronautical with Slain in the Spirit, out August 20th on Spine Farm Candlelight Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.